So what do y'all think? Leave it in the comments. Do y'all think that was a rigged fight? What's going on, y'all? Cheetos here. As y'all obviously know, the Paul Tyson fight happened the other night, or should I say morning. I came across a video that is entitled Jake Paul Needs a Reality Check. I'm not the biggest fan of Jake Paul. Without further ado, let's get into it.
And he actually outboxed the boxer. Jake Paul outboxed Mike Tyson like he said he was going to do. Did you not? Like every single round.
No, and yeah, like what do people say? Like I told everyone what I was going to do is to give him a boxing lesson.
Jake Paul is truly a joke. And honestly, it's really impressive how both of the Paul brothers managed to go from Disney Channel.
I wish. I can never do what this guy does. I mean, look at me.
Okay, so speaking of which, with both of them, what the f ever happened to Logan? I haven't heard anything about him in a hot minute.
I'm not built for it.
To two of the most hated people on the internet in just a few years. And if you would have asked me a year or two ago who the most annoying Paul brother was, I would have said Logan easily, as Jake seemed to really chill out after getting caught looting on video during the 2020 riots and then getting his house raided by the FBI only 2 months later. But after watching his brother become the laughingstock of the entire internet for like 2 months with the entire Dylan Dennis situation, Jake told his brother, "Hold my White Claw, it's my turn for a little bit of attention." And after beating up a handful of 40-year-olds, including one retired NBA player, Jake Paul would lose to his first and only real opponent, Tommy Fury. And that's when Jake would head
So is he only getting his quote-unquote wins from fighting older retired fighters?
to his local retirement home for his next opponent, and he would call out Mike Tyson for his next fight. And the reason he gave for calling out Mike Tyson is honestly hilarious.
The thing that initially kicked this fight off was me taking ayahuasca about 2.5 years ago and seeing a vision of me and Mike Tyson fighting. It was certainly gonna happen. Like I could feel it in my bones. I could see the TV.
So according to Jake, he took ayahuasca 2 years ago, had a vision of him fighting presumably prime Mike Tyson, and after coming out of his trip and realizing that Mike Tyson is literally almost 60 years old, Jake would still come to the conclusion that he would be a great next opponent, but only after waiting 2 years for someone to cough up a big enough bag. And of course, within that 2-year span, Mike Tyson only got significantly older, and Jake Paul only got...
Now, with that being said, real quick side note, I still am Team Tyson. Yes, obviously Jake Paul won that fight, but I am still very much Team Tyson.
Significantly bigger and stronger, as he's literally in his prime at 27 years old. And although the fight was supposed to initially happen back in July, it was actually delayed because of an ulcer flare-up that Mike Tyson had while on a plane. And this flare-up was so significant that when he went to the bathroom, he started throwing up blood before passing out on the floor while still in the air. But despite that, both Mike Tyson and Jake Paul would decide to go through with the fight, pushing it back to November, giving Mike only 4 months to fix the ulcer problem and continue getting ready for the fight. And sadly, the fight ended up being complete dog shit. I feel really bad for the people on the East Coast that stayed up hella late to watch it. Thankfully, I'm on the West Coast, so their fight started at 9 p.m. for me.
Okay, so yeah, I'm one of those people on the East Coast. I stayed up, let's see, it didn't start till damn near 1 a.m. It was cool seeing Tyson get in the ring one final time, but it was kind of a waste of time.
I would have been awake anyways, but if I stayed up late to watch that shit, I would have been mad as hell. And I know there's been a ton of talk about the fight being fake or scripted, as it really was terrible, and I think a lot of people expected more out of Mike Tyson, despite him being as old as he was, including me. And honestly, I'm really curious what you boys think, as I've seen so many differing opinions all over the internet. And even though I told my friend in text that if Jake Paul won the fight, I think it's rigged, after watching the fight itself live, I'm not entirely sure that's actually true. I honestly feel like Mike wouldn't have wanted wanted his last fight ever to be rigged this one-sided. If you look at how many punches each of them connected with, Mike only connected with 18 total punches out of Jake Paul's 78. And that just doesn't look like a rigged stat line to me. And honestly, on Jake's side as well, I don't know why he would want to rig a fight where he's just absolutely mollywhopping a 60-year-old man. I feel like if the fight was rigged, both of them would want it to be close so that Jake can walk away with some bragging rights and Mike can walk away with a little bit of dignity left. But that's not exactly what happened. Mike walked away letting everyone know that no matter how good you were in your prime, age will eventually catch up to everybody. And Jake walked away looking like the guy that couldn't knock out a 58-year-old man with a knee brace that clearly could barely move, despite Jake saying this after Mike slapped him in the face.
Why did he do that to you?
I didn't even feel it. He's angry. He's an angry little elf. Mike Tyson, I thought that was a cute slap, buddy, but
That you're not answering the question though.
tomorrow you're getting knocked the out. I'm him up, Ariel. I'm him up. He hits like a It's personal now. It's personal now. He must die.
And after that little performance on stage right there, Jake would then proceed to, no joke, run away from Mike Tyson for the first 3 rounds. But by round 3, Mike was completely gassed out. And after a couple of punches straight to the face, because he simply just wasn't able to protect himself, Mike would realize that he just wasn't able to do it anymore, and he would just kind of stand there, biting his glove and taking the punches for the rest of the fight. And I really wouldn't be surprised if more than half of Mike's punches came from those first 3 rounds. Because after that, it really just looked like Jake was fighting someone that wasn't even fighting back. But who knows, at the same time,
Okay, so I am kind of curious why they just had Whistling Diesel in there.
Tyson way too much credit, as we do now live in an era where it's really money over everything. And although Mike Tyson did make hundreds of millions of dollars throughout his boxing career, he did actually file for bankruptcy in 2005, the same year that he retired. And although he was able to turn that around, get a lot of his assets back, and he's still extremely successful and way more rich than the average person, he is 58 years old and he has a pretty beat up body. He also has 7 children. And with reports saying Jake Paul made 40 million and Mike Tyson made 20 million himself, Mike may have decided it was worth losing one more fight in order to secure his last big paycheck. And according to all the reports I've seen, Mike Tyson's net worth is about $10 million. And that's including all of his assets like his house and his cars. And he just got 20 million in cash. So of course I wouldn't be surprised if this was fake from the start. It just sucks to see even a legend like Mike Tyson sell his soul for the bag. And although Jake Paul did bow down to Mike Tyson before the final bell rang, and he has said a lot of stuff to show him respect, you think if he really respected Mike Tyson and this fight was actually rigged, he would have let Mike win. But of course it wasn't actually about the respect or lack of there that he had for Mike. This is all about Jake Paul. This entire decision was about Jake Paul the entire time. He wanted to fight Mike so he could say he was next up in boxing. And that's exactly what he's been doing ever since the fight ended. But at least he did show Mike a little bit of respect, unlike his dumbass brother Logan, who said this when Mike made a sly comment about fighting Logan next.
Logan, I think he said you might be next. Oh, I'll kill you, Mike. Oh, please, no.
It's like his
Cocky little
ego won't allow him to be humble for even a second, even when a legend is sitting right in front of him and showing him a ton of respect, which is pretty confusing because Logan couldn't even knock out Dylan Dennis, despite him not being a boxer and despite him literally throwing almost no punches during the fight. The only real fighter Logan has fought was Floyd Mayweather, who just so happened to be 44 years old at the time of the fight, and that seems to be showing a pattern between both of the Paul brothers. Fight as many old retired fighters as you can and use those wins to validate your career as a boxer.
I really do want to see the McGregor Tyson fight. Jesus Christ, the McGregor Paul fight.
And that's exactly what they're doing, because ever since Jake beat Mike Tyson in the boxing match, he hasn't shut up on Twitter or in interviews about how he's next up in the sport. This is what he had to say on Twitter, reflecting on how I have disrupted boxing's old guard. And it finally hit me. Mike Tyson was the original disruptor, took the entire sport by storm, and became an icon. Goals are clear. And this right here is exactly why I didn't want Jake to win the fight. I don't hate Jake so bad that I just needed to see him get knocked out. I just didn't want to hear this bullshit. Bro really just compared himself to when Mike Tyson first entered professional boxing. I don't think I need to say why that's absolutely ridiculous, and either Jake Paul is trolling right here, just trying to get people mad so he can sell more tickets for his next fight, or he's completely delusional. Then he would reply to someone else's tweet talking about the biggest UFC gates of all time, and he would say this: crazy that we did a bigger gate than every UFC event history, and that company is 30 plus years old. Biggest gate of Mike Tyson's career, biggest attendance of Mike's career, biggest viewership of Mike's career, biggest combat sports gate in US combat sports history outside of Las Vegas. It takes two to tango. The ego and the delusion is just fucking spewing out of him. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm sure Jake did help bring those numbers up quite a bit. I'm sure a lot of people watched that fight hoping Jake would get knocked out, but there was also a ton of people watching that fight that had no idea who the Jake Paul even is. There were so many people watching that fight that haven't had a chance to watch Mike Tyson. I was 4 years old when Mike retired. I've never seen him fight. I wasn't watching the fight because of you, Jake. I could have gave a about you, and I think that goes for the majority of people
I was just gonna say, I feel like that goes for probably anyone who is older than Gen Z. No one gives a about Jake Paul. Everyone just wanted to watch that fight to see Mike Tyson one last time. And I completely agree with this YouTuber. That was me. I wanted to see Mike one more time, and I wanted to see Mike kick his ass.
Watching the fight. It's been 20 years since Mike Tyson retired. It doesn't matter if he was fighting a midget. His numbers were going to exceed his previous ones no matter what, just based off the amount of people that haven't had the chance to see him fight. This isn't the Mike Tyson return matchup we wanted, it's the one we got and the one we all dealt with. And that goes without mentioning that for the most part, for most people, this was a free fight to watch. I would say the majority of people already have Netflix. So comparing that to UFC fights, which you literally have to pay for, I don't think that's really fair. But Jake will say whatever he wants to make himself feel better about beating up a 60-year-old man. He also replied to this tweet: 6.6 million watching Antonio Brown streaming the video board in Dallas. Way to go, Netflix. And he said, more people watched an illegal stream of my fight with Mike Tyson than what the
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of took to Twitter, and I was one of those people for a couple minutes that was watching it via that person's stream. And then Netflix came back.
NBA playoffs averaged in 2024. And the same exact argument stands here. It's been 20 years since people have seen Mike Tyson fight. The numbers were gonna be huge either way. And honestly, comparing the entirety of the NBA playoffs, something that happens every single year, to one fight, a fight that we may never see again from Mike Tyson, is not the same. Not even close, actually. Back in 1989, when Mike Tyson was only 23 years old, Muhammad Ali would claim that Mike Tyson would have beat him in his prime. And Mike had a very humble response to the legend Muhammad Ali.
I was so fast. If he hit me.
See, now that is good sport. That is good sport.
Best if you catch me.
Yeah. What would you say, Mike?
I by no means, I'm vain. I know I'm great, but can I tell you something? In this situation, every head must bow, every tongue must confess. This is the greatest of all time.
Now,
again, that is good sport.
Compare that response from Mike Tyson at 20 years old to Jake Paul's response at 27 years old when someone asked him if he would beat Mike in his prime.
100%. I believe I could beat Mike Tyson during any phase of any part of his career with my current boxing ability.
I truly believe Jake's inability to be humble during this entire Mike Tyson situation was really his downfall. I think if he showed Mike a whole lot more respect leading up to the fight, people would hate him a whole lot less. But at the end of the day, I don't really think Jake gives a how any of us feel. Bro made $40 million off of this fight, and he's likely going to continue to make more money off future
$40 million from a bullshit fight. Really, I feel like he got paid $40 million goddamn dollars to meet Mike Tyson. God damn.
Fights, as now a lot of people really want to see Jake lose.
Holy shit. Okay. Alright, so what do y'all think? Leave it in the comments. Do y'all think that was a rigged fight, or do you think that was real? Anyway, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for sticking around. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.